Good day everyone. For today's video, our topic is about supply theory. Supply in economics refers to the quantity of commodity offered for sale at various places during a particular time. Supply links with three basic things. First, supply is the desired quantity. It means that supply is all about how much quantity the sellers are willing to sell and not how much they actually sell. Second is that supply is always expressed regarding some price. Means that with a change in price, the supply will also change. Third, supply is a flow concept or it is a flow variable. The supply refers to the amount that producers or sellers are willing to sell during a specific time, like per week, per month, and so on. The supply of a commodity does not mean the entire stock of the commodity, but only the amount that the entrepreneur is willing to bring into the market at a particular price. The quantity of supply that are individual firms or all the firms willing to offer into the market for sale may affect by many factors. Such affecting factors are the determinants of supply or market supply. Determinants of supply have a significant place in the theory of supply. And here are some major determinants of supply. First is the price of the commodity. It is the most influential determinants of quantity supply. Other things remaining the same, higher quantity will supply with a higher price and smaller quantity will supply at a lower price. The higher price will ensure a higher profit, and the possibility of higher profit encourages producers to supply more at a higher price. Second, goals of the firms. The objective of the producing firm also determines the supply quantity in the market. The goal of the firms may be profit maximization, sales revenue maximization, or risk minimization. In general, most business firms have a profit maximization goal. Thus, if the firm has set its objective to maximize the profit, larger quantity will be supplied. If the firm has a motive of maximizing the sales revenue, then they produce more and supply more quantity than profit maximizing quantity. Third is input of prices. The price of the factor of production, raw materials, etc. also affects the supply quantity. If the producers have to pay higher prices for inputs needed for production, its cost of production will be higher. Given the price of the commodity, the higher cost of production reduces the margin of the producer. This will lead to a lower amount of supply in the market. Fourth is the price of related goods. The supply of any commodity is also affected by the price of related goods like substituted goods. For a producer, the producer always can shift the production from one commodity to another. If the prices of other related commodities are increasing and the price of the commodity under consideration remains constant, the producer will find it more profitable to produce and sell other commodities. Fifth is the production techniques. The improvement of innovation in the technique of productions may reduce the cost of productions and increase the profit of the producers. An increase in profitability will lead to an increase in the supply of products in the market. Therefore, improved technology and improved techniques of production will lead to a higher supply of the product. 6 is nature of industry. The nature of the industry, whether it is monopolistic or competitive, also affects the quantity supply in the market. The monopoly firm or industry may restrict the supply to generate more and more profit. Similarly, if the firm or industry is perfectly competitive, then it cannot restrict the supply. Therefore, a competitive firm will supply more and a monopoly firm will supply a low quantity of output in the market. 7 is the government policies. It includes the tax subsidy policy of the government. The taxation policy of the government, like indirect tax, will increase the price of the product. The imposition of a heavy tax on production will increase the production cost and will reduce the supply. The reduction of taxation will therefore increase the quantity supply in the market. Number 8 is expectation about future price. If the producers expect an increase in the price soon, then the current supply will be reduced and they will hoard the production with an expectation to sell it at higher prices. On the other hand, if they expect a fall in price soon, then there will increase the quantity supply in the present time. Ninth is the availability of transport and communication facilities. If there is an easy and wider availability of services like transportations and communication from the area of production to the area of consumption, then supply will increase and vice versa. Transportation helps to carry goods from one place to another market, reaches higher, and communication also helps in promoting the availability of the goods and expand the size of the market too. This will lead to an increase in the market supply of goods. 10 is the natural causes. The natural factors or causes are also a major determinant of supply, especially in the agricultural supply. Natural causes like drought, flood, unfavorable climate conditions, favorable monsoon, etc. directly affect the supply of agricultural output in the economy. Adequate, timely rain, and favorable climate situations will increase the supply of agricultural supply. Under the theory of supply, we have two types of supply. First is the firm supply, and second is the industry supply. Firm supply is a supply curve for a firm that tells us how much output the firm is willing to bring to the market at different prices. Under the firm supply, we have supply functions, law of supply, and producer surplus. First, supply functions. In economics, is a mathematical formula that depicts the relationships between quantity supplied, price of the commodity, and other related variables. In economics, it is the utmost importance to businesses. They can establish the optimum quantity-price relationship to control costs and make high profits. Firms can study the variations on quantity supplied with price changes. However, it still depends on many factors such as market conditions and government policies. Here, QA is the quantity of commodity A supplied. PA is the price of commodity A. PB is the price of related commodity B. X, Y, and Z are the other variables affecting the product supply like the cost of production, government intervention, and level of technology. Second is law of supply. It is the microeconomic law that states that all other factors being equal, as the price of a good or services increases, the quantity of goods or services that suppliers offer will increase and vice versa. Understanding the law of supply, this chart depicts the law of supply using as supply curve, which is upward sloping. A, B, and C are points on the supply curve. Each point on the curve reflects a direct correlation between quantity supplied, Q, and price, P. So at point A, the quantity supplied will be Q1 and the price will be P1 and so on. The supply curve is upward sloping because over time, suppliers can choose how much of their goods to produce and later bring to the market. At any given point in time, however, the supply that sellers bring to market is fixed, and sellers simply face a decision to either sell or withhold their stock from a sale. Consumer demand sets the price, and sellers can only charge what the market will bear. The law of supply is one of the most fundamental concepts in economics. It works with the law of demand to explain how market economists allocate resources and determine the prices of goods and services. Third is producer surplus. Now, what is a producer surplus? Producer surplus is the difference between how much a person would be willing to accept for a given quantity of goods versus how much they can receive by selling the good at the market price. The difference or surplus amount is the benefit the producer receives for selling the good in the market. The formula for producer surplus is total revenue minus marginal cost equals producer surplus. A producer surplus is shown graphically as the area above the producer supply curve that it receives at the price point P, forming a triangular area on the graph. The producer's sales revenue from selling Q units of the good is represented as the area of the rectangle formed by the axis and the red lines, and is equal to the product of Q times the price of each unit, P. Because the supply curve represents the marginal cost of producing each unit of the good, the producer's total cost of producing Q units of the good is the sum of the marginal costs of each unit from 0 to Q, and it's represented by the area of the triangle under the supply curve from 0 to Q. Subtracting the producer's total cost, the triangle under the supply curve, from his total revenue, the rectangle shows the producer's total benefit or producer surplus as the area of the triangle between P and the supply curve. The size of the producer surplus and its triangular depiction on the graph increases as the market price for the good increases. That decreases as the market price for the good decreases. There is a special considerations. Producers would not sell products if they could not get at least the marginal cost to produce those products. The supply curve, as depicted in the graph, represents the marginal cost curve for the producer. The second type of supply is the industry supply. Industry supply curve is the horizontal summation of the supply curves of the individual firms. It is assumed that the factor prices and the technology are given and that the number of firms is very large. Industrial supply means the supply for bona fide industrial purposes in factories, including the supply required for the offices and for normal working of the industry. In the figure 5.10, we show the industry supply as a straight line with a positive slope. It should, however, be noted that the particular shape of the market supply curve depends on the technology and on factor prices, as well as the size distribution of the firms in the industry. All firms are not usually at the same size. The particular size of each firm in perfect competition depends on the entrepreneurial efficiency of the businessman, which is traditionally considered as a random attribute. And under the industry supply are industry equilibrium in the long and short run, zero profit, and last is rental rate and price. An industry is in equilibrium when there is no tendency on the part of the industry to vary its output, that is, neither to expand output nor to contract it. Now, the essential condition for the absence of any tendency for expansion or contraction of industry output is that the demand for the product of the industry and the supply of it by the industry are in balance, that is, in equilibrium. According to Marshall, for the equilibrium of the industry, each firm in it may not be in equilibrium. To Marshall, equilibrium of the industry meant the equality of demand and supply of the industry's product, nothing more. According to Marshall, given the equilibrium of the industry, some firms in it may be growing, expanding their output. Some may be declining, contracting their output, and some others may be holding their outputs constant. Short-run equilibrium of the industry. We must distinguish between the short-run and the long-run equilibrium of the industry. In the short run, only existing firms can make adjustment in their output while the number of firms remains the same. That is, no new firms can enter the industry, nor any existing firms can leave it. Since, in the short run, by definition, the entry or exit of the firms is not permitted. For the short-run equilibrium of the industry, the condition of making only normal profits by the existing firms, or in other words, the equality of average cost with average revenue, is not required. Thus, the industry is in short-run equilibrium when the short-run demand for and supply of the industry's products are equal and all the firms in it are in equilibrium. In the short-run equilibrium of the industry, though all firms must be in equilibrium, they all may be making supernormal profits or all may be having losses depending upon the demand conditions of the industry's product. Short-run equilibrium of the industry is illustrated in Figure 23.7. where in the right-hand panel, industry's demand curve DD and short-run supply curve SRS respectively are shown. These curves intersect at point A and thereby determine the equilibrium price OP1 and the equilibrium output OQ1 of the industry. Firms will take price OP1 as given and will adjust their output at the profit maximizing level. The left-hand panel of the figure 23.7 shows that a firm in the industry will be in equilibrium at OM output. It should be noted that the scale on the x-axis on the diagrams in the right-hand and left-hand panels are different. With OM output, the firm is making economic profits equal to the area KRST. If it is assumed, as is being done here, that all firms in the industry are alike in respect of cost conditions, then all firms, like the one shown in figure left-hand panel, will be making profits. Thus, while the industry is in short-run equilibrium, that is, the demand and supply of its product are equal, and also all the firms in it are in equilibrium, and they are making economic profits. Long-run equilibrium of the industry. In the long run, number of firms can vary, lured by economic profits earned by the existing firms. In the short run, the new firms will enter the industry and compete away these economic profits, and thereby all the firms will be in long-run equilibrium at the minimum points of their long-run average cost curves and will therefore be making only normal profits, that is, zero economic profits. If the existing firms make losses, some of the firms will leave the industry so that the output of the industry will fall, and as a result, the price will go up to the level of average cost. Thus, as a consequence of the exit of some firms, the remaining firms come to be in long-run equilibrium where they are earning only normal profits. The industry is in long-run equilibrium when, in addition to the equality of long-run supply of and demands for the industry's product, all firms are in equilibrium, and also there is neither a tendency for the new firms to enter the industry nor for the existing firms to leave it. The long-run equilibrium of the industry is depicted in Figure 23.8, in which in the right-hand panel, the demand curve DD and short-run supply curve SRS of the industry are shown, which is intersect at point R and thereby determine the price OP1. It will be seen from left-sided panel of Figure 23.8 that with the price OP1, the firm is in equilibrium at point E and producing OQ2 and producing OQ output and making supernormal profit. Next is zero profit means normal profit. Normal profit occurs when economic profit is zero, or alternatively when revenues equal explicit and implicit costs. This is the formula. Total revenue equals explicit plus implicit costs. Implicit costs, also known as opportunity costs, are costs that will influence economic and normal profit. A business will be in a state of normal profit when its economic profit is equal to zero, which is why normal profit is also called zero economic profit. Normal profit occurs at the point where all resources are being efficiently used and could not be put to better use elsewhere. When substantial implicit costs are involved, normal profit can be considered the minimum amount of earnings needed to justify an enterprise. Unlike accounting profit, normal profit and economic profit take into consideration implicit or opportunity costs of a particular enterprise. When attempting to calculate economic and normal profit, it is important to understand the two components of total cost. Explicit costs are easily quantifiable and generally involve a transaction that is tied to an expense. Examples of explicit costs include raw materials, labor and wages, rent, and owner compensation. Implicit costs, on the other hand, are costs associated with not taking an action called the opportunity cost and are therefore much more difficult to quantify. Implicit costs come into consideration when an entity is foregoing other types of income and choosing to take a different path. Some examples of implicit costs may include rental income foregone for the sake of business property utilization, base salary income foregone by an entrepreneur choosing to run a business rather than work in another job, or the difference in projected gain from investing at one rate of return level versus another. Last is rental rate and price. According to the Ricardian theory, rent is a surplus above cost. It does not therefore enter into price. We have observed in the preceding discussions that price depends on the cost of production on the marginal land, which is not rent land. In other words, rent is not included in the cost which determines price. It is only when price has risen high enough due to the forces of demand and supply that rent on any plot appears. Thus, rent is the effect or result of price and not the cost of it. Figure 33.8 clearly shows that rent does not enter into price. Rectangle D represents the cost of raising produce on D class of land. It is seen that cost goes on rising with falling fertility. The market price must cover the cost of productions on D land if the produce of the D land is needed to meet the total demand. And when the cost of production on D land is being covered by the price, A, B, and C lands are earning a surplus called rent. There is no rent in the rectangle on D. We can conclude, therefore, that according to the Ricardian theory, rent is determined by but does not determine price. Rent is thus price determined and not price determining. Of course, modern economists do not agree with the Ricardian view. They point out certain cases in which rent will enter into price. When we think, for example, not of all the land in the country but on the land available for particular uses, rent does form an element of price. This is clear from the concept of opportunity cost. Most of the land is capable of being put to several alternative uses. If it is put to one use, it is not available for another use. The cost of putting land to one use is represented by the loss undergone in not putting it to the next best use. To withdraw it from one use for the sake of another, therefore some payment has to be made. This is called opportunity cost or transfer price. This payment for the use of land in a particular use enters into price. From the point of view of an individual firm, all rents of all factors must, of course, be included in the cost of production and must, therefore, enter into price. If a farmer is using land belonging to someone else, the rent that he pays is obviously a cost for him. In the case of an owner-cultivator, too, the rent at a cost is there by its presence is obscured. The payment that he could have received if he did not cultivate it himself is the opportunity cost of the land. Further, prices are determined by the scarcity of the products in relation to demand. The rent that an entrepreneur pays is part of his cost of production. If the rent is high, the entrepreneur will tend to hire less land, and conversely, he will use more land if rent is low. If he uses more land, the supply of land for other purposes is reduced. If he uses less land, the supply available for other purposes is increased. Thus, rent, by influencing relatively scarcity of land for different uses, affects the prices of different products. However, as Davenport points out, rent neither determines price nor is determined by price. Both price and rent are governed by the relative scarcities of the products of land. They both vary with the changes in this relative scarcity. The same principle applies to wages, interest, and profits. That's all, and thank you.